Good morning, Bears. It is a Tuesday that acts like a Monday. Periods 1 through 4. In a history week, that means your projects are in history. Nothing to turn in science. But every day you report to Zoom with the period that you are assigned. So this is an introduction to ancient Greece. We're going to stay in the Greece area for a couple of weeks. The Greeks' major tie-ins, and we will tie some of that into both Christianity and Judaism in a few weeks when we get back to that. But first, let's just do a quick overview where we started in the beginning of the year, I think right here in Los Angeles. Look at that. So we're in Los Angeles, next to Arizona, below Nevada, right on the Pacific Ocean, Baja California below us. Beautiful thing to work with. And if you go straight east, you head over to New Mexico and then to Texas. All right, let's pull back and see where we're at in the world today. Look at the United States. Beautiful. Notice the size of it. Pretty large continent, North America. North America extends all the way down here into Central America. And then in Central America is this little region here. We will go there when we learn about the Mayans and the Aztecs and some other Native American regions. This is considered South America. Just putting this in perspective on the globe. Now, as we head west on our map, it's kind of hard to keep this thing directly west. Notice up here our land bridge. Remember we were here? And you can see that this is a land bridge that during the Ice Age and different times was easier to cross, sometimes harder than others. Most speculate that this is how humanity made it from the African regions around Mesopotamia, possibly the first humans that made their way around the globe. Lots of different theories on that. Notice underwater ridges here, but they made their way over, and that's where we have people in the Americas, up here in Alaska, etc. And going back over to the other side of the world, we have China, which we're going to get to soon. India, well, we will study India in Hinduism. Buddhism, mostly in China. The Tao, a lot of fun religions to study when we get to there. Come over here to the Arabian Peninsula and Persian Empire, which is, we've talked about the Persian Empire a little bit, because remember, they actually freed the Jews and let them have their temple back. They controlled the area down here, but they let them have their religion. Unlike the Babylonians and remember the Assyrians. So here we are in Africa. Look how big Africa is. Huge. Deserts. There's something called the Silk Road, which you'll dive into in your later classes. 7th, 8th grade. Silk Road goes across here to tie trade into this ocean to this ocean. Remember, waterways are great ways to trade. Look, this is where you have your classic Africa jungles, chimpanzees, all the really crazy stuff you see about when you see like Tarzan and things like that. That's this green area. And then, of course, you've got the lions and things like that live in these desert regions. Africa is just an amazing place. If we dive in here, as we studied, we have the Nubians and the Black Pharaohs were down in this area, which is now Sudan. But down in this area, we have Ethiopia, Sudan here. And this area, very powerful. The Black Pharaohs, powerful empire that controlled all of this region. Of course, then we go to Egypt, where we studied with pyramids and the Nile. Notice how green that is. Beautiful place to have a civilization, which is why it was one of the earliest civilizations. Most people think one of the very earliest is right over here, which is now called Iraq. And a lot of people speculate this is where the quote-unquote Garden of Eden was somewhere in this area. Once again, 2 rivers. And remember, this probably looked a lot different 5,000, 6,000, even 15,000 years ago when men and women settled here. It could have been even greener. Remember the speculation about the pyramids, that at times there was a lot more rain. And so things changed quite a bit with the environment over thousands of years. So in here now, we have, if this was an ancient map, you'd see that we had the Assyrian Empire, the Akkadian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, and of course, right in here, our last thing we've studied, Israel, the Israelites, Judaism, Hebrew language, land of Canaan. And remember, they were nomads. Abraham was just a nomad traveling around. They lived mainly in tents in the early days. They were sometimes went to Egypt, Joseph, etc. Later on, they became slaves, the Israelites. Not all of them. There were always some Israelites hanging out in here, but many became slaves. And then, of course, the Moses story, crossing the Red Sea to go back to the land, and they settled here in Israel. And then many more adventures, as we learned from Lena. They tried to kill us. We survived. Let's eat. Because guess what? This is a modern day map, and what do you know? There's Jerusalem, there's Israel, the temple is there, the wall of the temple is there, not the temple. But remember, 2 different temples destroyed. The last one destroyed AD 70. So meanwhile, there's civilizations going on here. And the last we were here, we're in Judaism, let's approximate around 500 BC, and it's called the Silent Period in Judaism. That was the last books of the Torah. And at that point, there's some writings, but it's kind of a silent period until Christianity develops. Now, Christianity is based around Judaism. So, of course, a lot of people don't realize this, but Christianity is oftentimes associated with Rome in Italy, which is up there, and we're going to go into that in a second. But that's because that became powerful later, hundreds of years after Jesus walked the earth. Originally, it's basically a Jewish sect. Judaism would say it was a sect or an offshoot. Christians would say it was a continuation. Different debates there, but bottom line, that's this region. Now, this takes us to today. Look where we're at. We have our map here. At this point, while all of this stuff is going on here, Mesopotamia, Assyrians, Babylonians, Israel, obviously they have big ships. There was trade also happening with a very different looking geography. Take a look at that. Take a look at this. Nothing but deserts, small little green patches. Take a look at this. Nothing but green, not a desert in sight. And we enter the land of Greece. Beautiful, beautiful place. Guess what? We're going to watch a little video or two of Mr. Downs exploring this area, and we'll use that as our intro, and then we'll get started with today's lesson, where you guys get the foundations for the week. Remember, it's a Tuesday, acts like a Monday, short week. Goal today, open slideshow. Get your concepts, 1 per slide. Get your visual evidence. Look at the visual evidence. Try to learn something. Find some cited research. A-level people are usually going to be done with that when we start class tomorrow, because guess what? I use your work and you use your work to teach the class and get started on our daily manuals. So we're going to start there. If you're in, there's a link in groups. If you're just watching this video without being in Zoom, just go watch that video link. If you're in Zoom, you will watch the Mr. Downs Adventure videos, which I guess I'll put those in there. I'll put those in groups as well. So you'll have a Khan Academy overview, Mr. Downs fun videos. You do not have to watch all of those videos. They're just fun ways to dive in and give you some background. But let's go a little bit deeper. So as we zoom in Google Earth, notice this looks like a hand. A lot of people like to remember that looks like a hand. And then we have Greece, and then all these islands are just amazing. I didn't get to do these islands on this trip, although I did do them a long, long time ago. But I was playing around here. Now, how this ties into Christianity and Judaism is when they started spreading Christianity, they came up in a lot of the New Testament that we will study around around Easter, happens in this area. And so this Sparta is down in here. Greece is in here, and imagine, this is geography, remember, islands, waterways. Before we dive into it, think to yourself, how does this impact trade? These are mountainous regions. How does this impact trade, big cities? Will there be bigger cities or smaller cities in a place like this? What do you think mountains would have to do with all this? What about agriculture? What kind of stuff are they going to grow here? How would that be different than over there in Egypt where there's tons of open space? So these are the questions you want to be thinking about. It's a fascinating 2, possibly 3, probably only 2 weeks in Greece specifically, but we'll talk about Greece again with the spread of Christianity, because boy, do we have a lot to cover before the end of the year. Now I'm going to pull back one last time and just show you in perspective. You're going to see me in the video. I'm in Italy. I'm in Rome. I go to something called Pompeii, which is a very, very cool place. It was done by a volcano. We're gonna watch that. You're gonna see Bari, and you're gonna see me take a ferry down into Greece, all the way down here, overnight ferry in here, and then I take a bus to Athens where I explore. So let's go watch Mr. Downs' adventure and get this day going. Open all slides, concepts in, visual, cited evidence. Let's do this. Great week in history.